Welcome to the Aiki Dojo Podcast. I am David Ito, Chief Instructor of the Aikido Center of Los Angeles. And with me is...
Ken Watanabe.
And we have a special guest today.
James Takata.
All of us are from the Aikido Center of Los Angeles. So today I thought we would talk about martial awareness, situational awareness. Are you a situationally aware person?
I like to think so, but every time something gets past me, I'm like, I need more training. How would you define martial awareness?
I don't know, justified paranoia? I don't know. I mean, martial awareness is this thing that you gain where you're able to read situations, read people. So when you're in the bank, you should know that the bank robbers are coming in before they come in. There's these stories of Sensei riding the train, and then the person sits down next to him and then looks at Sensei and then just runs off, right? Or there's stories of Sensei getting on the train and then like getting right off, and then the deshi's like running after him. That's his situational or martial awareness. You know, maybe for this conversation, we call this Aiki awareness, but it's your ability to read the situation, the circumstances, the people around you, and then do the appropriate thing.
Okay.
Does that define you as a?
I think that's the right definition for martial artist situational awareness.
Do you think you were a situationally aware person before you did Aikido?
I want to say that I was brought up in an environment like a Japanese parenting environment where you're typically not right at all. You're always kind of wrong. You're being criticized for everything. So growing up, you're kind of on edge a little bit all the time. Like, am I going to do this right? Am I going to do this wrong? Like, will this make my parents angry? Will I get spanked for this? So you kind of have this edge growing up. Like, you're relaxed, but you're always, like, part of your brain is always on alert a little bit. And Aikido, being at this dojo, kind of refined that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, James, would you say are you a situationally aware person, and were you that way before you did Aikido?
I try to be situationally aware in life or at work, certainly here. I'm sure it's increased having been at the dojo and having trained here. I think I pay more attention to who's in the environment, what could happen. I think parenting it contributed to that too. You know, you're watching your kid at the playground and you're looking at, could she fall off this thing? Could that thing hit her in the head? She's going to step in front of the swings and get knocked over. I think that also contributes to situational awareness, martial awareness, if you want to call it that.
But were you that way before you did Aikido? I
don't think so.
I think on a certain level I was, because I was raised in that type of environment too. Today we look back and call that abuse.
Yeah.
But in the old days, it was just, the kid makes a mistake, the parents smack them or yell at them. And so that causes you to be on edge, right? So I think I was always kind of that way. And then I have ADHD, and my superpower ADHD is I'm really good with details, right? So I'm able to see the details, see things, but that's also like brings me like a little bit of suffering too, because I can see when people are lying, faking it till they make it, cheating.
I mean, they say ignorance is bliss, and it really is bliss. If you don't know what's happening, you're happy. But if you're aware of all the things that can go wrong, you're aware of the mistakes people make, you're aware of their carelessness or their thoughtlessness, then it's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, has there ever been a time when you were Do you feel like you're a situationally or martial aware person?
Today, yes.
Is there ever been a time where it served you?
Well, I can think of an example that also made me more situationally aware, more martially aware. It's that time that I got attacked by, it was like 5 gang members. It was back in 2005. I was working late on a TV show. It was Halloween night. I'll never forget Halloween night, right? And so I got home to my apartment near Larchmont after midnight, and I had to park on the street. There's no garage parking. So I parked in the street. It's been a 12-hour workday. I'm kind of tired. I had to cross the street to get to my block and then walk up the steps to my apartment. When I crossed the street, I looked both ways. I saw headlights probably a couple blocks down. It was safe to cross. I didn't really think a lot about it. As I got to my stairs, a pickup truck sort of pulled up and stopped in front of my apartment. And about halfway up the stairs, these guys started shouting at me. I won't repeat the things they said. It was kind of rude, right? And so I stopped, I looked, and I thought these guys were going to try to rob me. And I thought, I don't have my keys in my hand. It's going to take me too long to try to get to my front door and like get the keys out. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to stop and see what's going on. 2 guys jumped out of that pickup truck, and I'm at the top of the stairs now. There's stairs on both sides, 8-unit apartment building. So I see this guy running towards me. He's yelling at me, hey. And I figure he's going to try to rob me. And I've been sort of coached by my dad, like growing up, hey, if someone tries to take your wallet, just give it to him. Don't fight him for the money. It's not worth it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just give this guy my money. He's running up the stairs, and he's got a jacket, like a Letterman jacket kind of a thing. And he's running up the stairs, and as he's coming up the stairs, the jacket opens just enough to show that he's got this big knife, in like a big kitchen knife, like inside of his jacket. And I thought, oh, he doesn't want to take my money. This guy wants to like stab me, right? And so I made this split-second judgment. I need to get out of the way, right? And so I ran down the other stairs. There's another guy out of the pickup truck. He's coming towards me, and I kind of like cut between these cars and went the opposite direction of the truck and start running down the street. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm running for my life down the street. It's the middle of the night. Is this really happening? It didn't feel real. And I had flip-flops on. Flip-flops are flying off. I've got my shoulder bag, and I'm like a block down. And I thought, I don't know where I'm running. So all these thoughts are going through my head. I don't know where I'm running, and I don't want to run out of gas, so to speak, and then not be able to fight. So fight or flight is happening, and so I decided I'm going to fight. So I stopped, and I turned around. I made about a half a block distance between these 2 guys. So I stopped, and I took my bag off. I threw it down on the ground, and I was like, all right, let's go. The guy with the knife was further behind. His friend, we'll call him his friend, his associate was closer to me, and he had a tire iron. And so I was in sort of a Hanmi stance, and he didn't even slow down. He just ran up and sort of yokomanuchi towards my head with his tire iron. And I tenshin back, and he missed me. And he loaded up again, and he tried to hit me in the head. I tenshin again, and he missed me. And there was like a pause where we were kind of like assessing. I was assessing. I was like, I think I could probably handle this guy. Maybe I could handle this guy and the guy with the knife. But I know there's 3 more guys in a pickup truck somewhere, and maybe they have a gun or whatever. So I assessed again, and I was like, gonna run. So I turned on my heels. I left the bag, and I just like got away. I like turned up another street. I looked back. They didn't follow me. I ended up just like hiding in somebody's yard until I had my phone. There were cell phones, 2005. I called 911, and it was Halloween night, so cops didn't show up for like another hour, and they're like, oh, well, they would have just left you for dead in the street, whatever. So that was that experience. I think my training, I talked to Sensei about it after, and he said, "Oh, I think Aikido saved your life that night." So probably true.
Did you get a feeling that they were going to do something before they got out of the car?
As soon as that car stopped, I had the feeling of, oh, this is bad. This is for me.
So that's this idea that where does situational awareness or martial awareness, where does it start? If you watch this documentary movie called I Am, written by the guy who did Ace Ventura, he visits Heart Math. And Heart Math, they do this exercise where you're watching this monitor, and then based on the image is either good or bad, and then when whatever flicks on, you hit a button. And they said that they could tell that the person felt what it was going to be before the picture flashed on the screen. So when it was a horrific picture, their body reacted to it before it entered the screen.
Really? So they did not see the image on the screen, but their, let's call it ESP, their sense, told them that something bad was going to appear on the monitor before it even happened.
Well, that's that premonition that situational awareness is supposed to bring to you, that you can smell trouble, right? So when I would go to bars with my buddies in my 20s, I would always be like, hey, there's a fight about to break out. And they're like, no, there's not. And then sure enough, 5 minutes later, a huge brawl breaks out. And I was like, see, I told you.
Is that what they mean when they say read the air?
Yeah, you got to kuki no yomeru. You got to read the air. But usually that's in terms of like, how do you develop situational awareness? How do you develop the ability to read? Is that first you read your teacher. And then when you learn to read the teacher, you can learn to read opponents. And then when you learn to read opponents, you can read circumstances and situations. And so the first person you got to read is your teacher. And that's why they say the best teacher is the one that's most unreasonable.
That's right.
Because a reasonable, affable, nice, sensei who's kind of like your grandpa, there's no need to read that person. If the teacher is unreasonable or mean, you have to read them. Because like in our dojo, anything could be a trigger.
That's right.
And then, you walk in and you say some stupid thing to sensei and he flips out on you. And then you think to yourself, it's so unfair. Like one time sensei said, you didn't bow again. And I said, yes, I did. He said, don't you talk back to me. And then literally like 5 minutes before that, this one student was totally talking back to sensei. And you're like, what's the difference, right? But the difference is that like you have to know if the teacher's in a good mood or a bad mood. You got to know if the teacher's had a bad day. And then you got to be careful of the things you say and do.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's why the etiquette is the way it is, because what I was told was that you say hello to your teacher. The way he answers, you can determine right away if you're going to have a good time at the dojo or you're going to have a bad time at the dojo if you make a mistake. That's the first thing you got to do is aisatsu, greet the person.
And then later on, psychically, somehow you automatically know, today's going to not be my day.
Yeah, you just walk in the dojo?
Before you even get to the dojo.
That's right.
And that, when you're learning to read your teacher, you're trying to steal the teacher's moves, technique. So while you're trying to read the teacher, you end up learning how to read their temperament. And then the teacher did it right or wrong, or the teacher cheated, or the teacher did it this way incorrectly, purposely to trip me up.
Yes.
Because you can read the teacher so well, right? And you think, why would a teacher do that? Like in the old days, like Kung Fu teachers, they said, would teach the form backwards.
Yes.
And then only when they felt like they could trust you did they teach it the right way.
What I heard was the Kung Fu teacher would teach it correctly once. If the student said, I didn't get that, can you do it again? Then he would throw in an error in there. Then the more you ask the teacher to show it, the more wrong the teacher will make it. So if you're a properly trained martial artist, you should look at the movement and get it right away.
Yeah, you should be able to steal it one time.
One time. And at first I was like, why do they do that? Then I understood, when you're dealing with your opponent, you have to catch their movement without asking them to, hey, can you punch me 3 times so I can defend myself against it? Like right away, you assess them just as they're standing there.
So you can tell, this person is left-handed. They have a limp. They're all these things. You should be able to pick them out.
Yeah, you can assess their ability like just by looking at them.
And style.
Yeah,
the cauliflower ears are a tip.
That's too easy.
Yeah, like that's just the way they stand, or the way they look at you, the way their body is set. You can tell what style they do. But that's just, one of the things is you gotta develop your powers of observation, correct?
Right, and those powers of observation, they seem like a superpower. Like you walked out into a dark parking lot and you saw all this broken glass, all these smoked cigarettes, empty alcohol bottles, and you go, why don't people clean up after themselves? Or you go, someone was hanging out here. I can still smell the cigarette. Oh, I better be on guard. And then people go, how did you know that? Well, you read the signs and the signals.
Yeah. You see like broken glass next to a car. You think, I'm not going to park here.
Yeah, I shouldn't park here.
I should not park here. But, that's an easy one. That's common sense. But martial awareness almost goes beyond common sense. And like you said, it can only be developed under a sensei who's unreasonable.
Yeah. Because the affable nice guy, you never have to read them. They always say sorry. They never take their day out on you. And then and that's why like in the beginning, in the old ways, the teacher was always your first adversary.
Yes.
Right. And then you cried yourself to sleep and you think, I'm going to beat him. And then you try really hard to watch their moves, to pick up their nuances.
Yeah, but that's the student's job is to defeat their teacher. That's their job. Their main job is to defeat their teacher. Because if they can't defeat the teacher, then the art will die.
Right. But, so like you think about all these things that you're trying to accomplish by reading your teacher. And then later on, when the opponent steps out, you're able to read them in a split second.
Yes.
Like, oh, yeah, just like that. You could tell they're hiding their disdain for you, And, not just looking at the cauliflower ears. The cauliflower ears, that gives it away too easily.
Yeah.
Right? But then you watch the way the person walks and you go, oh, that guy does some type of grappling.
Yeah.
Judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Oh, that person walks really long-legged. Oh, maybe savate, taekwondo, and you could just tell.
Yeah. One time I was eating at a restaurant with Sensei, and he made a comment to me. He was like, our waiter does martial arts. It's like, really? He just looked like a regular, nerdy-looking guy. And I was like, Sensei, how could you tell? I was like, oh, you look at his forearms. His forearms were well-developed. I was like, oh, shoot, yeah. His forearms are well-developed. But, he would just... And it could have been like the way he moved, Yeah,
because he could have just had a forearm blaster. He's got these big old forearms, and then you misread it.
Yeah, but like forearms are different than a forearms developed as a martial artist, I believe.
Unless you're like me, that when I got my first car, it had no power steering.
Oh, yeah. Mine was the same way too. No power steering.
Yeah, we thought we got this great deal because my mom grinded on them, and we got it home. And I was like, hey, this... She drove it like a couple months later. She's like, there's no power steering. Oh, that's why the price was so low. Like, darn it. No, but yeah, that's the thing is that you're trying to add it up. You look at the forearms. You look at the way they walk. You look at how they stand. Like when I got a suit the other day, the guy, with the way he said, oh, I cut the lapel a little bit different in the back. And I said, oh, you did? He said, yeah, you have a military posture. And I was like, I do? He's like, oh, yeah, the way you stand is like, were you in the military? No, I do martial arts. Oh, okay. But he said he purposely cut the top part of I don't know what you call the lapel or whatever.
Yeah.
Differently because of the way I stood. And you go, oh. But that's, again, reading people, looking at this, trying to understand if somehow they're going to move against you.
Yes.
You know, and like in your world as a director, you got to know that you look at that grip and you go, that guy seems like he's got a drug problem, right? Or that actor who's
Why is it always a grip?
is that always are they grips?
I love grips.
Why is it always a grip? That's so funny.
You know, or that actor you go that this person's about to go off, and then you got to circumvent it, right? Or ruins everything, and that's where you got to you like try to read every person that you meet without like actually talking to them or touching them. Touching them or talking to them is easier, but reading them without them telling you,
yes,
that's harder.
Yeah, I think with this movie that I just directed, there were some times where I could sort of tell that the actor wasn't going to be able to go to that emotional place too many times, right? Like, oh, I don't want to push them further than they need to push. Like they delivered that performance again. If we do it again and one of our actresses is, she's 15, like I don't want this to be sort of damaging, right? Like that's enough. We got it. Like I don't want to push you too far.
But in the old school way, you push them so far that's what got them the Academy Award.
Sure.
It traumatized them. They have a drug problem now and they're all messed up. But that's the same thing for like the teacher. The teacher goes, oh, Ken Watanabe, doesn't want to swim. All right, we're going to the pool. And then you go, Sensei, I don't like to swim and I'm afraid of it. And he goes, and they push you in. And then as you almost drown and then save yourself, you come out and the teacher goes, see, now you're fine. And then you go, oh, I guess I'm over it.
I mean, that's like Sensei's fear of heights. Did you hear that story about when he was at Hombu Dojo, they knew he was afraid of heights. So what they did was they made him clean the outside windows on the second and third floor. They made him do that knowing that he was afraid of heights.
Huh.
Did it cure his fear of height?
Well, you're never really afraid of, you're always kind of like nervous around heights. But, one thing I regret about training under Sensei, and I think about it all the time, is I wish Sensei smoked. The reason why is because I can sense when he wants a cigarette and I can have the lighter out like right away. So compared to a traditional teacher, Sensei was actually quite not as demanding as his own teachers. His own teachers smoked. So before they had the cigarette like this, you timed it. So bam, like you had the light right up to the cigarette. I didn't get that. I wasn't privileged to have that kind of training, even though smoking is bad for you, but it's just one more thing for me to be alert.
I mean, yeah, I think so. But I mean, those are just all. It could be cigarettes, French fries,
French
whatever
fries,
it is. Like, but I mean, and that thing comes from the guy who played the Zatoichi.
Yeah,
there's a documentary where he says, "Oh, if the actor doesn't light my cigarette right away, I fire them right on the spot because they don't have it." And you go, damn. And then it's not supposed to be lips to cigarette. It gets lit. It's as it's coming up, it's already lit, and then he smokes it. Yeah, there's like a famous documentary where he's talking about that exact thing.
Yeah.
But, that's the hard part. Like you have to try to outsmart the teacher, and then once you can outsmart the teacher, you take it to other people, the students in the class or the person on the street. And you not only try to read their style, you try to read their temperament. And then you try to ascertain where do you need to drag them out to in the water to break them.
But then after you get to that level, like how does that affect your peace of mind? Like being able to read every single person, reading the room. I mean, does it make your life harder or does it make your life easier? I mean, I believe it makes it both harder and easier, depending.
I don't think some people might think it makes, because what I think you're talking to or alluding to is that you become paranoid.
Yeah.
Like everything is like you're so wide eyed all the time. Oh, trying to, but I don't think that actually happens because everything must come from this calm mind.
Yes.
And talking about this idea that you need to know before you need to know. Well
Yes.
before, right? Like you need to know someone's about to walk in this dojo and they're going to try to do something. Like, oh my gosh, he just jumped out of the rafters on top of you. Oh, I didn't know someone was hiding up there for 3 weeks. Like whenever something happens here and like, something falls or whatever, and Mike's just standing there and I go, good thing it wasn't a ninja. Right? Because you didn't see it coming. And, like you have to, before you hear it or see it, you already have to be moving.
Yeah. I mean, I know Sensei said when it comes to that sense, he said, like, it's not like you're guessing.
No.
Like, it's not a guess. You just know. So you know for sure that even though it feels dangerous, that there's no danger.
Well, like it's like we were at Sensei's house after Sensei died, and we were getting some box off the shelf in the dark, and Mike was getting the box, and then he was pulling the box off the shelf, and then a box slid out from on top of that box, and then like my hand just like caught it, and Mike was like, "Oh my gosh!" But his hands were full of the box, and then when the other box started slipping, he was just gonna let it hit him in the face. And then I saw it, and then I just like blocked it. But he thought like I had come out of nowhere and like blocked it, right? But I mean that's an easy one because I heard it sliding,
Yes.
and then you can react. But the thing is you have to get to a place where it's there before it makes a sound, before it makes a move, and then that's really hard because you have to have read this situation. Like you go, oh, Free Sensei is the type of person that would stack a box on top of a box, and then But if you just go, there's probably nothing up there, and then that's when the thing knocks you out cold.
Is that sort of like, I don't remember the names of the Yagyu Shinkageryu swordsmen, but Yagyu Tajima no Kami was talking with somebody, and he was introducing he had his sons come in. And the first son opened the door, and then the little ball hit him on the head, and he cut it before it fell on the floor. And he told this guy, "Oh, yeah, he needs much, much more training." And then the second son came in, and he caught the ball. And and the third son, he opened the door, took the ball down, placed it on the floor, and he sat down and said, "Yeah, this guy is."
Yeah,
guy.
And they recreated that in the Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
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 And in what was the Western version?
The
Magnificent
Seven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like supposed to demonstrate that it seems as if it's ESP. It seems as if you're, it's supposed to be almost supernatural. And then that's why when you're going back to your question is, does it ruin your inner peace? I don't think it does. You just become this person that you saw it or felt it or sensed it. You assessed it and you went, no big deal. But you're like, guy in a trench coat wearing, in the height of summer, it's 120 degrees out. I mean, that's the easiest one.
Yeah, that's suspect.
Yeah. But if this person walks in and they're affable and they're talking to everybody and then they pull out a gun and you go, shoot, I didn't know that was there.
Yeah, you're supposed to see through his good-naturedness that this is a very, very bad man. It's con man or whatever.
And then you try to be that way at the dojo, and then you try to take that to your job. Like you would take it to your directing jobs, and then you before everyone knows, and then they think, wow, James he has like a superpower. He's like ESP. You just go, oh, it's just Aikido training.
Well, I have a question. How much is like a sense that you develop, and then how much is experience, like wisdom, I guess, like, oh, you've seen this thing happen before. I've been hit with a box that fell off of a box, so next time I'm not going to do that.
And we call that learned intuition. Right? Learned intuition is like this. John is a jerk. John is a huge jerk. He was a Marine. He's, this, he's that, he's this. And then John becomes the archetype. So then every time a person who walks in just like that, you go, oh, it's the John archetype. So you know that that's going to come before it comes, right? When you've been mugged 5 times, and then so now when they pull up to your house, you go, oh, about to happen again, right? So it's this learned intuition. It seems as if it's intuition, but it's really just pattern movement, right? So a person strikes you in Aikido, you can move before they strike you because we strike in a very similar manner all the time. But then later on, when someone strikes you on the street, you plug in that programming, and then it seems as if you just, how did you move like that? No, like you already move like that based on that thing that always happens to you. So it seems so quickly that it seems intuitive in like intuition.
So it sounds like, I mean, I already believe this, but traditional training, everything in traditional training, from the etiquette to cleaning up, everything we do is designed, would you say it's designed to develop this kind of martial awareness?
I would love to say it's designed. That means it was premeditated and well thought out ahead of time.
I don't think it's that premeditated, well thought out. I mean, the teacher has a lot to do with it, correct?
Well, but I mean, like today when they were doing the wiping down the mats, there was all this water on the mats, and I was like, "What's up with the water on the mats?" And then I think my kid or someone else went like, "Oh, just don't worry about it." And I was like, "But there's water everywhere, right?" And that you're supposed to have taken care of that because the teachers would go off on you.
Yeah, they would go off on you because you weren't paying attention.
And then you go, I gotta clean that mat. You don't let it ever get that way,
Or you like wring out the towel a little bit more so it's almost dry, kind of thing.
How do you guys talk about this on the podcast all the time, sort of the difference between the old way and sort of the new way. And so how do you instill that in students if you're not the teacher who's like, the mats are wet and how dare you, right? Like, how do you do that if you're not going to be that way?
I do not know.
Yeah, that is...
I do not know, because what ends up happening is that the people who have the love of the game end up being the people who do all the work. And then the person who just comes in like, oh yeah, whatever, they don't ever see it. But like, though, everything you do is supposed to be, like you said, essentially seems as if it was designed to make you a better martial artist. Like, we used to have to always be half dressed. So you took off your shirt and then you put your uwagi top on, and then you took off your pants and then you put your bottom or zubons on. You never just undressed fully and then dressed fully. And then I think that someone told me that that's from like a Miyamoto Musashi story about when he was bathing and they broke in and tried to kill him, and that he was like naked. So after that, he never bathed ever again. So Sensei never said this is the rule, but somehow it became a thing where when we were students in the 90s, everyone always did the half on, half off, never fully off.
Yeah, that was just something that was developed from our own training, and I believe we just added our own spin on it.
But he didn't tell us.
No, he didn't tell us. We just instinctively started doing that.
Or like a student showed up to a demonstration without a hakama, and then Sensei went off on him. So after that, I always kept a full spare uniform in my car, top, bottom, belt, and hakama, because you didn't want that to happen.
The purpose of dressing halfway is what?
When you run out the door, you're not naked when you have to engage someone, right? So like if someone comes to the door and they just want to know about Aikido and you're fully naked or you're just in your underwear, it seems weird. But if you have your uwagi top on, you can kind of cover up and be like, yes, can I help you? Or if there's a fire, you have to run out. You're not fully naked.
Yeah. Or like I heard this story about Spartans, or was it Spartans or Trojans? I don't remember, but like the leader was looking at the way the soldiers drink. The ones that put their sword down to drink, no. The ones that held the sword as they got the drink of water, they were like real soldiers. I forgot where I heard that story, but for some reason I never forgot that story.
Yeah, so it becomes like a martial habit.
It's a martial habit. We develop martial habits, which are unreasonable to normal people.
Yeah, we're not allowed to step over weapons.
Yeah.
But that by never stepping over a weapon, you never end up insulting someone, or you never step over and accidentally step on them and slip and fall and hurt yourself.
Yes.
Right? So you go, oh, that's why you do it. But if you say, don't step over the weapons, and then they go, why? You go, I don't know, we just don't do that.
But yeah, like everything is designed the etiquette is designed so you don't create misunderstanding. So you don't start trouble where you don't want none.
Yeah. Like in the old days, I don't know if you ever went into Sensei's office, but there would be like stacks of magazines or newspapers just stacked up like 6 feet. And then like a fool, people would come in and be like, so anyway, Sensei, and like lean against it and it'd be like, and then Sensei would flip out, and then, he would yell for a black belt to come, and then that person feels all dumb. And yeah, and inside when I was cleaning it up, I'd just be laughing to myself and like, what an idiot. But you learned to not lean on something or do something like that so that you wouldn't get in trouble. And then from that thing, like when I went to Cuba, it's not that Cuba's dirty or anything like that, but you don't know how clean anything is. And so I was very disciplined about never leaning, never touching something and then touching my face. And then I didn't get sick at all when I was in Cuba the 3 or 4 times that I went. But you use that same discipline of standing in Sensei's office and never leaning on something casually to knowing how never to touch your mouth if your hands aren't clean. Right? So like you extrapolate these lessons and then use them for your benefit in your daily life.
What's the difference? We're talking about martial awareness, situational awareness. What's the difference?
Pretty much the same thing. Situational is more for like I don't want to get mugged, so I got to know what's going on, or I don't want to get in trouble at work or get in trouble with a spouse. But martial is more of who is this person in front of me? How do I read them? How do I read the situation? So that I don't get beat, right? And then, there's a famous story of the samurai and the tea master. You ever heard that one? So the tea master was wearing a sword because the Lord granted him the privilege of wearing a sword. And so when he was walking through, I'm not sure if they sayate, touched the sais or whatever, but the guy said, who are you to wear this sword? And he said, oh, the Lord said I could wear it. And he goes, how dare you? And then he says, you're going to fight me in a duel. So the tea master is like, I don't know what to do. And then he has to fight this guy. So he goes back and talks to the sword teacher or something like that of that family. And the sword teacher says, just when you draw the sword, hold it like you're doing tea ceremony. And then he draws the sword, holds it. And then when the samurai touched the tip to tip, he read how relaxed the tea master was and then put the sword away and said, oh, I'm sorry, and walked away. Right? So that ability to be relaxed and calm, when that guy tried to read him by touching the sword, he read, this guy knows something. I better get out of here. So that's kind of like your martial awareness at work. The hardest thing is that, yes, it can go crazy and you can go paranoid with this, but you go paranoid because you're focusing on the wrong things, right? And I do it all the time. I'm at Starbucks and I'm like, what is this person doing? You should stack the cups this way. And I think, I don't work there.
Yeah.
Right? I go, and I do the Mel Robbins, just let them. Or I'll, because I was in sales for so long, someone will try to sell something and I'll be like, no. You got to do it like this. And for years, I would pull salespeople aside and be like, was that your pitch? Look. And then I would give them a lecture on how to sell.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I go, why the hell do I do that? But see, that's part of your letting your situational martial awareness take over. You have to just go, not my problem, not a threat, and just move on. And then focus on what might be a threat.
Like part of the training, I believe, creates a balance within you. So you don't harp on every single thing that like you see that's wrong. For example, Yoshikawa Eiji's Miyamoto Musashi, there's that portion where Miyamoto Musashi visits the Hozoin temple, and he's walking through like a courtyard, and an old man is hoeing or something like that, and then Miyamoto Musashi jumps over the old man into the other side. And the story goes, the old man was the main spear master of the Hozoin temple. But Miyamoto Musashi could sense danger. He could sense the hoe coming out and taking out his legs. So he jumped over the head priest. Then when he talked to the head priest told him, you're too strong. You're too strong because you sensed me, but I was just doing my work.
What do you think he meant by too strong?
That his, like, I thought about this for a long time, too strong, but then probably his martial awareness got triggered because it was so keen that he sensed it and he jumped over when he didn't have to. Like, he was way over too much into like the red zone rather than just being like, assessing the situation. Probably as an old man with a hoe,
Someone told me that when they say that you're too strong, they mean you're too juvenile.
Maybe, and that could have been it too.
Right? Like you read the situation incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been a threat, but
Yes.
you read him as a threat, so your level is too juvenile because you assessed it incorrectly based on the information.
Yeah.
You should have felt, oh, there's nothing there.
Yes.
And that's, then that's the hard part that if you don't, one of the things that you learn in martial arts is discernment, the ability to see one thing or another, right? You go, this is one thing, but it's not that thing. And then you think, oh, everybody here's a threat. And then you're at DEFCON 5 or whatever it is. And then you just can't fall asleep at night. Right, you're the type of person where you can't turn it off, and you got to check the lock on the door, even though you don't have OCD. You're just still checking that lock because you never know. It could have, maybe I didn't lock it, or maybe it's got, and then you can't go to sleep at night. So it could mess you up. I mean, do you think it messes you up?
Well, sometimes you're at work, you're like, oh my God, it's so annoying because it seems like no one's paying attention. Things are all kind of messed up and you're fixing it. You're like, okay, this is the way it should be, But I mean, that's probably every service worker's day in a restaurant. You're like, oh, they didn't clean this up. Okay,
I would say that every service worker's day is probably like can I get away with not doing it? Because I really don't care.
That's also true,
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Who cares if the cups aren't filled? Big deal. I just get some more.
When I worked where you work, it's a wealthy country club. We got these spoons. I opened up the box of spoons, and they were all had dust on them, black dust. It's a wealthy country club. I could just throw them in the trash and got more. But you know what I did? I washed all 500 spoons, washed them, and then dried them. All 500 spoons.
I had never heard this story before.
I was like, but part of it is just, I got nothing better to do. And I don't want to waste money, time, the planet by throwing these away. So I'm going to wash all these spoons. But I could have just closed the box, put it away, and went and got another one and kicked the can down the road. But as a martial artist, you can't do that, right?
No.
But so, thinking about these martial arts situational awareness, how do you learn how to read your opponent? How do you figure out what style they do?
The only way to determine what style they do, like, I believe Sensei, like, he's studied various styles. And, he had lots of friends who are martial artists. So you have to develop your eye. And a lot of times is, as a martial artist, you have to look at your opponent. You have to determine their breathing and their balance and posture, where their weight is on their foot. And as a teacher, like I'm always looking at the way they have their balance and posture and their weight on their foot. So that's part of my training is to determine, is this person on balance? Is this person not on balance?
Yeah, you know, like grappling styles stand a certain way.
Yes.
Striking styles stand a certain way. But an interesting thing is that when I tried to read Master Shu, I couldn't read him. He didn't stand a specific way. He didn't walk a specific way. He didn't carry himself like, this guy knows something and he's deadly. Master Adam Shu, he's deadly. So, but when I think about him, I didn't go, yeah, he walks like a kung fu guy. Oh, he walks like this. No.
Yeah, like you think, oh, yeah, I could take this guy.
Yeah, you think, oh, there's a mild-mannered old Chinese man. I could take this dude. And then that would be a terrible mistake.
Yeah, that would be your last mistake.
But the thing is that he became, when I think about him, the way he walked, the way he carried himself, the way he talked, he just seemed like a person who was, you know,
like accomplished
and educated.
Yeah, he had this elegance about him.
Yeah. But he didn't like walk a certain way, you know. He didn't say, you know, oh, give me that, you know. He wasn't always doing like snake hand every time he was moving around. And when I think about him, I go, man, there's no way to read him because he didn't telegraph that he did a style.
Is that indicative of a very high level where it's hidden?
Yes.
It's not that it's hidden. The person, let's say if we just take karate, doesn't need to get into a deep stance to do a kick. They're already balanced. They're already rooted. They could kick, you know, any way and not fall down. The novice person has to build their stance in order to not fall down when they kick. And so because you build your stance, you walk around with that stance. So like, I don't know if did I ever tell you my nickname in high school, in college?
No.
Iron Hand.
Iron Hand.
Did I ever tell you that? Yeah.
No.
It's because when we used to go bowling, when I would throw the ball down the lane, my other hand would be in kokyu.
Okay.
So, you know, it would be back behind you doing kokyu to stabilize your stance. And so my buddies would call me Iron Hand. But see, if someone would have read me and they go, oh, if they knew a lot about Aikido, they would go, that guy might do Aikido. Because look at how he does kokyu with the backhand to stabilize his stance when he's bowling. That's how I will destroy him. And that's where, like, you know, it is indicative of a high level, but it's not something that you suppress or hide. It's that you have let go of the things that you think you need so that you don't have to walk around with your hand in kokyu all the time. So if you look at Yoshinkan stances of Aikido, they're throwing their kokyu hands, sword hand, the tegatana out the whole time. If you look at Aikikai, they don't do it as much. You look at O-sensei earlier, he does it a lot. O-sensei later does not at all. If you look at O-sensei and you try to read O-sensei, watch those videos, and you try to think, does he do Aikido? You would not be able to ascertain his style.
No, like when you watch O-sensei, it looks like he's an old man just playing around with a bunch of guys trying to grab him.
A spry old man.
Like it's really hard to see the basics in O-sensei's movement.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he is Aikido. So whatever he does becomes Aikido. Like, you know, like you said, like the karate guy who's a master, he is karate. Everything he does becomes karate, but in the most natural, relaxed way. So when you watch O-sensei, like people watch him, you can't get anything from O-sensei videos.
No, his level's way too high.
Way too high.
You know, like, but then that's where you start to really you really read people. You can read their level. You go, oh, look at O-sensei. You can't see anything. You go, that's high level. Yeah. You look at Master Shu, high level. Oh, you look at like some guy who just left his BJJ class. You go, oh, I could imagine that he does BJJ.
Yeah.
Well, one time I was in this kitchen warehouse restaurant supply place, and I saw this guy, old Asian man, shoulder length gray hair, walking with this person who was attending to him, and the attendant was Caucasian and overly attending to him. And I looked and I was like, what's this guy's deal? And I go, that old man probably does martial arts. That guy's a quack. I took like 2 steps, and then I turned. Oh, that old man was standing like right next to me, and I was like, "What the?" And I went to work, and afterwards, I was like, and I was telling someone who's probably listening to this podcast, EJ, and I was like, "Dude, that guy snuck up on me so quickly and quietly. Like I have good situational martial awareness, and that guy snuck up on me, and he was an old man." Like nothing. And I was like, dude, that guy knew some stuff. And then EJ's like, did you talk to him? I was like, hell no, I got out of there. But he was so, like, he knew I was thinking about him or something. And he like appeared like right there, like right next to my head. And I was like, whoa. And he was just standing there. But he walked so quietly. It was so mild mannered. I was like, oh, it freaked me out. So, I mean, you got to be able to read people. And then you have to realize that people are reading you. Yeah. And then most of us are telegraphing our bad day on our faces or our dismay or whatever it is. But the really good martial artist is not telegraphing anything.
Yeah, they're like a blank slate. Like they say the technique has no trace.
Yeah.
No trace. Like if you look, Sensei told me, if you look at pictures of Aikido people, you can usually tell what technique they did. But if you look at a high-level Aikido person like Doshu, any of the high-level Aikido people, when you see pictures of them, they're just standing there like this. The guy's flying through the air. You have no idea what technique they did. They hide it.
Yeah, and then because they hide it, you have to be really, really have a developed sense of reading the air and go, oh, we got it.
Yeah. But that takes lots and lots of practice and, getting yelled at all the time. Either that or if not getting yelled at, you gotta be so self-disciplined and hungry to develop that sense that you can somehow develop it on your own. Maybe. I don't know if you can, but... in the old days, prior to the Meiji era, prior to like 1868, martial arts or Budo schools never did public demonstrations. No. The only way you could come in is to fight. So if you say, I want to challenge the teacher, you sign this thing, and then you go in and you get beat up. And then the typical thing is if the teacher just beats you, you have to become the teacher's student. If you beat the teacher, you get to have the whole dojo. Yeah.
And so they never did public demonstrations because it was thought that people had such a developed ability to see that they saw the technique and they could steal it. Yes. Like if you watch Tai Chi Master with Jet Li, they're these lazy Shaolin monks, and then the master goes out at night and does like the techniques by himself, and then they watched him, and then when the teacher kicked him out of the school, he was beating them up. His friend did the technique on the teacher, and they just, where did you learn that? Where did you learn that? If you look at Heroes with Vincent Zhao, there's people, the Kung Fu masters that saw the technique and then emulated that style. And then when you're fighting they emulate your style. Like, how did this guy figure out my style? And that's because people in the old days, they're so good, supposedly, that they could see your style and steal it.
So then how does the modern practitioner develop that sense?
It's you really got to be that type of person, because if you don't have the teacher, like a teacher who's, I don't know, for lack of a better word, mean.
Yeah, unreasonable.
Then your buddy, my buddy James Takata, he's so nice. Ask him questions. He answers me. If we would ask for a question, he would have yelled at you.
Yes.
What kind of stupid question is that? And oh gosh. And then you learned after one, I don't ask questions. And then you either left or you became very good at Nezumi Keiko? Stealing? Or is it Nusumi or Nezumi? Nusumi. Nusumi Keiko.
Nusumi, yeah, you steal the technique. Or how it works is you have a question and you work so hard to answer it yourself that through training, you get it. Then only if you just absolutely exhausted every single possibility of answering this question, then you go to the sensei, and the sensei will know that you're just at wit's end. And maybe he may not answer at all. You're like, try more.
Or they say, what kind of stupid question is that? And you go, ooh.
But our teacher is reasonable.
our
You're
teacher,
reasonable.
well,
I don't.
we,
I don't have the heart to be unreasonable. I don't, and I think about this all the time, that maybe I should be more unreasonable, more mean. And then the teacher is supposed to be the mean person, and then the seniors are supposed to be nice. And then the seniors take care of the juniors, then the teachers, it can be that person. But the thing is that I don't have that inside of me to do that. And maybe in the future I will, I don't know. But it comes back to you, and that whether it's 1825 or 2025, it's all you.
yes.
You have to be the person that steals the technique, that says, gosh, Ken Watanabe is so good, I need to figure out how to get as good as him. And then you train and train and train, take his class, and then one day, without knowing it, your body starts to move his way, even though you don't know it. And then you somehow learn how to read, and then the teacher takes you, out with another teacher to dinner, and then you see how the teacher reads that other person. And then the teacher yells at you because you didn't pour the tea correctly, and then you learn, oh. And then you wondered why pouring the tea, you're not supposed to pour it all the way to the top at Chinese restaurants for our style. Maybe other people do. But you're supposed to pour it only high enough to where the person can still grab the edge of the cup without burning their fingers, and they can still touch it to their lip without burning their lip. But what happens is an overly earnest student just pours it all the way to the edge. And then it spills on the guest, they burn themselves, and then you get in trouble.
Part of this situational awareness is, I believe, like thoughtfulness, thinking about the other person, foreseeing what they need. That's part of the mindset you need. Like, if you're super thoughtful, think about the other person. If I saw someone like that, I'll be like, I don't think I can beat them, because I know for a fact that I'm on the selfish side.
True thoughtfulness.
True thoughtfulness without any ulterior motive. Like, I forgot the name of the priest, but he said, there is no merit. What if I did this? What if I made you palaces? What if I made you temples? What if I gave you money? And the priest told this, I guess it was emperor, there is no merit. You're supposed to do it earnestly, without the expectation of something in return.
And so that is how you come to understand Aikido. First, I learned the techniques, and then I tried to read my teacher and my opponents. And in reading my teacher, I learned how to become thoughtful. And then because I learned to become thoughtful, I no longer wanted to destroy others on this planet. And then Aikido becomes this thing where it's really about self-development. And that you go, oh, because I read them to destroy them, I also saw that he has a cough. And then he's my teacher, so I brought him cough drops. So I was thoughtful. But I tried to read him, and while I was trying to figure out how to destroy him, I go, oh, he's got a cough. Oh, and then you're at the supermarket, and you're like, oh, I think Furio Sensei would like these cough drops. And then you get him the cough drops. So see, like, at some point, it's incongruent. Destroying, saving, and then somehow, if the training is correct, it switches all over to thoughtfulness. And you no longer have the desire to kill, because every person you read, you go, oh, gangbanger with the teardrop eye. And you read him and you go, oh, abused as a child. And then you don't destroy them. You just hold them down. You look at that person, you go, oh, that person did that thing. We should all kill him. Oh, yeah, abused. And then you change.
I mean, like most people, like I would say martial artists or people who practice martial arts only go up to, I want to beat this guy up stage. They never reach the reading people. Well, maybe they might like reading people just to beat them up, but they never reach the thoughtfulness stage.
Yeah, that's and that is the highest stage, and that's where you abandon the form, because you don't need to walk around with a chip on your shoulder. You walk around, you're constantly
with your fist cocked.
Yeah,
And
then you become a weirdo, right? And then, but that at some point you let it go, because you really your situational awareness really is used for the good of mankind. And so, situational awareness is great and martial arts awareness is great, but you're trying to take everything to the next level. Everything in martial arts, next level, next level. Oh, my footwork is good, take it to the next level. My roll is good, take it to the next level. But most times, like you said, they go, this is good enough.
I mean, even like me, I'm sure you two might be the same way. Like I personally think I am never good enough in Aikido. Like I can always go to the next level. To me, I think, there's things that I still can't do.
But that's where you have to be careful of that language, though. I am not good enough. And then that I'm not good enough too long becomes the I'll never be good enough.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to really, and that's where like they came out with this whole idea of the power of yet. I am not good enough yet.
Yeah, I'm not good enough yet. I know, like for example, like I regret if I could live 500 years, yes, I could be maybe as good as Sensei. Maybe, like for example. But I have 20 years left of my life left? 20 years in martial arts, it's not a long time. It's a very, very short time. 20 years in martial arts, you barely learn something, actually,
But that's,
You have to accept that, though.
It's not that you have to accept that. It's like, what is the beginning? The beginning is learning the techniques, and then you learn you try to learn to read. And then after you try to learn to read, you try to learn to read others. And then you try to read yourself. And then you realize, I do say after every word. I do say and you do some. I gotta iron that out of myself.
Yeah, but.
You know, and then you iron that thing out, and then you realize that in your technique, you're always doing some weirdness with your pinky. I gotta iron that out, and then not iron it out because you're not good enough, but to iron it out to become better.
Yes.
Right. And then situational awareness, martial arts awareness, as we come to the end of this, is really trying to become thoughtful, as you said, trying to become a better person.
Yes.
That you're not only just reading people to destroy them or to cheat them or to be a criminal, but to read people to make their lives better. Oh, my girlfriend, I heard her sniffle a little bit. And then you pull out the tissue, and then the tissue came before she realized, I do need the tissue.
And then she thinks, oh my God, this man is a keeper.
Yeah.
This man is a keeper. And then, he's not some guy off of, swipe left or swipe right or whatever.
And then that's where like you become a human being, but a cut above. Right. And that all of that just so that girl said yes when you asked her to marry her or something like that, because you heard the sniffle before she realized she needed to, and then you pulled out the tissue. It's the same thing for the cigarette, same thing for the, all those things. That level of, to do it really, really well, you must be thoughtful.
Yeah, do anything well, you must be thoughtful.
So let's say that you're new, you haven't had a chance to develop your situational awareness, your martial awareness. What is that thing? Is there something that somebody has? Is that like what spidey sense or something? How does somebody who hasn't developed that or hasn't trained long enough tune into that?
Well, remember, if we talked about that heart math thing, it's coming before right? And then because it's coming, and what you're saying is that you don't know what to do. Well, I mean, it just requires more training, because the more you train, the more you go, like I was on a plane with one of the students flying to Mexico, and he's like, what would you do? As they were closing the plane door, he said, what would you do if someone ran up there and tried to open the door? And I said, look at my foot. And my foot was outside the aisle, turned out. I said, it's already ready to spring forward. And I go, but it's not something that I should probably put my foot out, right? It's something that you learn. It's all these things we're talking about. It's just, this is about learning about who you are, who other people are. When that person says, I'll be your student and I'm going to do all these things for you and I'm going to do all these things, you go, I just met you. Like there was a guy who came to study Aikido that I went to high school with. And I was like, oh, hey, man, how's it going? And then he said, you and I are going to become best friends. And then at first I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then it didn't go that way. And then when he was going off on me on the phone, and he said, I wanted us to be best friends. And I go, dude, you can't just say it. That's something you have to do to become friends with someone. Actions, those are just words, right? So you got to learn, right? You got to learn how to become this person and then do something with that spidey sense. You had the feeling that this person was going to rob the liquor store, but you went, I want Cheetos. But and then they rob the place. But then next time when you feel it, you go, I better leave. And then you quickly leave, and then you find out later that the place got robbed. So some of it's live and learn. They're just lessons. And then you try to, is it harage? Trust your gut?
Yeah, I don't know what the Japanese word. Yeah, you trust your gut.
Trust your gut. You go, I feel something. I sense something. But lots of times our gut is clouded by our sense of embarrassment, shame,
your ego,
whatever it is, and then you miss the boat.
So are you describing something you're saying trust your gut? Is it a feeling? Is it something that you learn intellectually? Maybe you can define that a little bit more.
Every person has the sense of danger.
Yes.
I mean, it's primal. It's epigenetic, right? Epigenetics is that it's buried in your genes. So when everyone has that sense, but it's suppressed because you go, I'm not supposed to think that about others. And then it becomes tainted. Oh, all minorities are bad.
Yeah.
All these things. Everybody from Japan is like this. It becomes tainted by isms. But everyone has a sense. And then you have to learn to tap into that sense. But then your cultural conditioning, your upbringing goes, shut up. You're not supposed to think that. You're nobody. You're this, you're that. And then your mind just gets all messed up with ego and thoughts and the story. And then you can't listen to your gut. Everyone knows, I knew I should have dumped that person, but I just couldn't. And then you don't. And then that person ruins your life, right? So there's been students I go, I should have just kicked them out. Oh, but then I was hoping that they would turn around. I was hoping, I should have just kicked them out.
It's almost like the training is, in theory, strips you of your ego. So this gut, that whatever message this gut is sending you is crystal clear, and you respond appropriately to this message.
Ideally, that you have stripped away so much of your own ego, BS, whatever you call it, that you can now listen.
Yes.
And then of course, listening, some of it's just like, but better get out of here. This place is about to get robbed. Or I should dump this person. They're bad for me. Right? Yeah, but and that's why at a certain level, your training becomes all mental.
Yes.
All mental. It's all mental. And that you spend all this time suppressing your emotions, trying to understand them, and then moving on in life. And then when you can do that, you can listen to your gut. It's not that. It's that they say the space between breathing in and breathing out, right? That's the space you're trying to get this to. We think this space, this nanosecond is that long, but really, if our minds can slow it down and open it up, and then when you slow it down and open it up, you can read that situation. But what happens is our sympathetic mind, stress, turns that off, and then we go reaction. So in class, let's say we take Shomanuchi, the person strikes you Shomanuchi, the person strikes you Shomanuchi. After a while, the strike seems like it takes longer to get to you because your ability to stretch that moment out. And then in that moment, you learn to not react, and then you learn to act appropriately. And so that's why in class, you end up learning how to read situations, because after a while, it's all that one guy, John. So like, and then once you get over that guy, John, now you have this one moment where you go, oh, and then you move into that moment. But like, that's most people quit before they can ever get to that place because it's just physical. He hits me, I block, and then I do ikkyo. But I just block in a very flowy way, and we call that ikkyo. No, you're supposed to have moved before they move.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know Sensei used to make us practice striking each other over and over and over again. And he told the person being struck, you have to train your eye to catch the moment when the person starts to strike you. Then in the interval, how long it takes for the hand to go from I'm thinking of hitting him to it actually comes to your forehead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's like what you said. That was like the most basic training of how to develop this.
And that's why martial arts, we do all this repetition. And that's why it's so funny to me when you hear all these people talk about, oh, kata, soap, doesn't help you, doesn't teach you nothing. No, that repetition is developing your eye. That repetition is developing your sense. And then, like you said, that moment between thinking of striking you and actually striking you becomes so vast that it looks like you're moving in way before, and it looks fake.
Yeah, it looks fake. Your timing is just so immaculate. Your connection, your alignment, everything that when I look at like some of these high level Aikido people do like seemingly magical things, like my intellectual mind says, God, that looks like fake. But I know for a fact that it's working because I've been there,
So as we finish up here, do you have any last thoughts on martial awareness, Aiki awareness?
I mean, I believe it's a balancing act, whether this ability will just bother you or you can handle it. It's kind of like, Daredevil, the man without fear. He has these heightened senses. He sees everything. He smells everything. He tastes everything. Everything is so overwhelming. But then he's trained to, I guess, filter out this extra stimuli so he doesn't go crazy. I do not know if that's the same thing because, like nobody has superhuman senses like Matt Murdock.
How about you? Do you have anything you want to close with?
I'll take it back to the story that I was telling before. And you were talking about kata. I think that in the moment, I wasn't thinking, oh, that's Yokomanuchi and I should tenshin. But we had practiced it so many times that it just happened naturally. And I think that something that I took from that experience was, which I'm grateful for, was to try to replicate that feeling in my practice of, I know what it is to be attacked by somebody who really means to hurt you. So to try to like capture that, to try to practice with that, and not necessarily attack people with the intention of hurting them, but we talk about giving people a real attack, like with the intention of making a connection, of striking, actually connecting. I think you're doing people a disservice. That's why it becomes fake. It's like, well, I'm just striking the air in front of you. I'm not actually intending to connect with your face. And then when someone gets in a real situation, they won't know what to do with it, I think.
Yeah, one of the greatest byproducts of traditional training is this ability to be aware, not just of yourself, but of others and in the situation, your opponents. So, I mean, we have to teach ourselves that. And you teach yourself that by coming to class, being dedicated to your training. When you're there, be there, right? And that sooner or later, you may not develop like Daredevil level of heightened senses, but you will definitely be better than the average bear. And
definitely.
Well, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you for watching or listening, and don't forget to like or subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.